What if Girafarig was in Gen 1 OU? Now, Girafarig is a Pokemon that I've always had a bit of a soft spot for. It was one of my first ever trading cards, as well as one of my first ever just Pokemon toys in general. Most people don't think about it, but I also like to play Heart Gold Soul Silver a lot, and Girafarig is surprisingly good for that game. Like, against Morty, it's just kind of like an auto win. And the big reason for that is because it is a Psychic Normal type. And those are two types that are great in Gen 1. So how would it do in Gen 1? That's what we're going to answer today. Now right off the bat, obviously it has a good type. Stab Psychic, really good. Normal Stab, theoretically really good. But there's just one issue. You have no normal moves. Like, seriously, look at this. Like, let's look up Girafarig in Gen 2. Okay, so, Body Slam. No Body Slam. Hyper Beam. Nope. No Hyper Beam. What about Double Edge? Also no. Which, I guess, the reason for that is because you're probably meant to use Return for this. But still, it hurts a lot. The only moves I can find is Headbutt, which you'll see maybe once in this video. And unfortunately, Rescato only pointed this out after I made the replays. But there's also Strength. So I guess that's something. But it's fine. Because its special attack is higher than its physical attack anyways. But that's the next thing I'd like to go over. Girafarig's stats. Most people would think of this thing as pretty weak. But for Gen 1, it's honestly not that bad. 80 attack is pretty good. 90 attack is pretty great for the time. And 85 speed, oh my gosh. You outspeed Cloyster. And Chansey. And Executor. Rhydon, all of these things. The main one is definitely Cloyster though. Being able to outspeed Cloyster when you have Amnesia, Psychic, Thunderbolt, all pretty good. HP's pretty average. And yeah, 65 defenses, not the best. But at the same time, Snorlax uses 65 for its special and its not HP, for its defense. So it could be worse. Granted though, for Snorlax, it has a large HP stat to make up for it. Unfortunately, you will see in this video, Girafarig kinda struggles to tank a hit, but it's still not the worst thing in the world. Like, I think Girafarig is very usable. And I already mentioned it a little bit ago, but yeah, this thing has Amnesia. That is like the main reason you want to use it. Although, to be fair, if I ever did a Revisited, this thing would definitely be getting Body Slam and Hyper Beam, and with options like those, this thing would be significantly better. But even then, this thing still has potential. With Amnesia, this thing does a lot better against the Psychic types, and suddenly that attack stat becomes way more usable. For this set, I honestly think Headbutt's probably the best thing you can go for. But you also have Earthquake if you want ground type coverage, and Strength if you want stab. Strength is going to hit any of the Psychics pretty hard. But here's why I think Headbutt is better. Unfortunately, along with no normal moves, Girafarig also doesn't get any, like, no Thunder Wave, which I thought was surprising. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because Girafarig is a Pokemon that I think is a pretty potentially dangerous late game cleaner when the opponent's already paralyzed. If the opponent's paralyzed, you're free to go for Amnesia, and once that happens, Psychic with Thunderbolt coverage, I'm pretty sure nothing outside of Executor wants to deal with that. And Headbutt. Now keep in mind that for Hypno is a very similar Psychic type, one that kind of struggles to have its own niche in Gen 1, and a lot of times with Hypno, you're using Thunder Wave and Headbutt, and Power Flinch is very annoying. The difference here is Girafarig has I think it has a better attack stat, but let's make sure. Looking up Hypno, we got Yeah, 73 attack versus 80. And you're actually using stab. So against Jinx, Zam, and Chansey, Headbutt is actually doing pretty good damage. It's got a chance to flinch alongside paralysis. And because of your 85 speed, you have a pretty good crit rate as well. So pretty workable. Although if you don't want to go for a headbutt or strength, rest is also pretty good. It can help you, heal when you're trying to set for amnesia. Although with this you're still struggling from your frailty. But against like psychic types, you can definitely make it work. For like Starmie, for example, it's very reasonable to go for some amnesias and then rest off while they're probably recovering off Thunderbolt damage. Granted, they can still crit you out. So that's why I'm not 100% certain where Girafarig would tier. I'm personally pretty optimistic, and maybe a little biased. I think the combination of Psychic and Normal, along with Amnesia and potential Paralysis Flinch, would be enough to keep it in the tier. Because keep in mind that Psychic and Thunderbolt coverage is already pretty good. With only Headbutt, you're not taking too much advantage of your normal typing, but at the very least, it's still giving you an immunity to Body Slam Paralysis. And you resist Psychic, so you can probably find some ways to switch this in safely. I don't think it's unreasonable. But can this thing stand up to the actual threats in OU? Only one way to find out. Starting off with the boy himself, we got Tauros. And obviously I'm going to stand it off the bat. It's not going to do so hot in a lot of these. But a big thing you got to remember is the fact that these replays are not really accurate representations on how a Pokemon would do. For Girafarig, it's not just going to stay in and fight against a full HP Tauros. Like I said before, you're going to try using it when everything's paralyzed, when it's actually faster and it can take advantage of moves. But still, I can't exactly show you guys a authentic game on that. You need to join my server for something like that. For now, let's just look at how badly Snorlax dominates. By the way, speaking of, like, my server, you should definitely join the Discord server, because I am constantly having people test out different mons for potential videos like these, and we host tournaments based off my what-if scenarios. So while you're watching Girafarig get beat by Amnesialax, just know that there's probably someone in the server who already went through all of the different calcs and try to determine how good Girafarig is. Also like the video and subscribe while you're at it. I'd really appreciate the support. Now how does Girafarig do against Amnesialax? I guess a little bit better than normal Snorlax, who Girafarig loses even harder against than with Tauros, since it's just bulkier and hits a little bit harder. And it's not much better here. Like, Snorlax can just rest off any damage Girafarig does, and often you'll see Amnesia alongside, still using a coverage move like Body Slam. So there's just really no win con here. But maybe it's a little better for Chansey, because Chansey are always faster than. I was just curious to see how much Earthquake did, and this was before I realized it had Strength. Strength would definitely do better. So with Strength, how much did Earthquake do? That was like 28%. Okay, you know what? With Strength, you actually are going to do decent damage to this thing. So, honestly, that in and of itself is already pretty usable. I really wish I remembered Strength before making this. This isn't the first time I've done this either. I remember when I did Regigigas, I forgot about Strength as well. Also, this is going to be another replay, but with this one, I'll be using Rest instead of Earthquake as the fourth move. So honestly, now that I'm thinking about it more, I guess Strength just have more merits. It's going to have more merit against Chansey, and while I don't have it for this video, or any of the replays, it is worth noting that it definitely would do a lot of damage to Alakazam and Jinx as well. A lot to think about, actually. Although I'm still not too happy with Strength, because it's just a weaker Body Slam with no secondary effect. So I still feel like Headbutt or Rest is better. But honestly, if you ask me, Girafarig having options just makes it even more likely to succeed in OU. Oh yeah, that crit. That's like probably one of the other things, along with paralysis, that Girafarig really struggles from. Ironically, being too fast can be a problem if you're trying to set up amnesias. Part of the reason why only Snorlax and Slowbro use amnesia is because they're slow and don't have crit rates as good as Girafarig. Although to be fair, unlike let's say Sword Stance, at the bare minimum, amnesia can still be used defensively. So overall, yeah, this is just could go either way. I don't think there's much I can say. I guess it's nice knowing that regardless of the moveset, unless it's like Earthquake exactly, Headbutt, Strength, Rest, all of these are pretty good against Chansey, and I'd say even more so against Alakazam. And that's mostly because Alakazam, I'm pretty sure you can say is more physically frail. Although, seeing a Psychic do almost half on the crit, yeah, that almost gave me some doubts, making me wonder if Girafarig is just too frail. And I also can't figure out why it's so frail, because 70 HP is kind of average, and at least for as far as I'm concerned with Gen 1, 65 isn't that bad. So I don't know, like, I didn't think it'd be tanking thing necessarily, but I don't know, I just didn't think it'd be as bad as it is. Still though, like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to mention, but obviously with paralysis, if both of them are paralyzed, Girafarig can become faster using amnesia. I guess that's another reason why it could potentially be good as a late game cleaner. I didn't test it, but it also has agility. And agility also might be a little bit promising, because with 80 attack with stab strength and 90 special attack with stab psychic, that's honestly hitting pretty hard against basically everything. Granted, probably not. If I had to guess, it probably doesn't have the damage ranges to kill a lot of things with those. But maybe. I don't know. Like, the Girafarig, I think, could be explored more. And I know why this isn't super requested or anything like that. It has an evolution. So why would you ever look through Girafarig when you go through the evolution? And the answer to that is because I think unlike other Gen 2 Pokemon, like Gligar or Apom, I really don't think Girafarig had it that bad in terms of the base stat department. Granted, it definitely deserved an evolution once we got to Gen 9. But I think I've seen other Pokemon have it way worse in my opinion. Also, like, I'll just say this here. Once you have Max Special, you only need one special drop from Alakazam to get an Oko on it, which is pretty helpful if I do say so myself. Next up, we have Cloyster. And being faster than it is a really big deal. Granted, for this replay here, you're gonna see it get a crit. And yes, it will do some pretty good damage. And unfortunately, one amnesia just isn't enough to get a consistent Oko. Although it's possible without the crits, it could be a damage range. Because I'm pretty sure crits do ever so slightly less damage than if you just boost it up twice. But even then, if I had to bet, at best, it's still just a damage range and not a consistent Oko. Next up, we have Executor. This is probably a replay that would look way differently with normal stab. Although, to be fair, I'm not even sure if it's worth going for normal stab at first. It's probably still worth going for at least one amnesia. That way, Psychic is doing nothing to you. And Headbutt probably isn't doing that much damage. You probably need Strength instead. But regardless, you still have a pretty decent time against Executor. Being faster than it is definitely helping out a lot. So most likely, you are going to be forcing Executor to go for Explosion. And if it hasn't gone for Sweet Powder yet, go for Amnesia and maybe you can burn like a few sleep turns. Gengar, normally I have Gengar go for Explosion. But I just wanted to show that both Earthquake and Psychic are enough to take care of it, which I think is pretty interesting. Earthquake is probably the worst out of all the coverage options you can give Girafarig, but the option is there and it can catch people off guard, so you never know. You're using it against paralyzed Pokemon anyway, so maybe Earthquake is good to, like, you know, have a Jolteon or something be seriously caught off guard. And yes, unfortunately, Pin Missile is just not enough to beat it. I'm so sorry that you have to rely on the crit Thunderbolt. Maybe you'll get lucky, because I heard Jolteon has a pretty good crit rate. Now here's Jinx, and... okay, even though I said that, what's it called, Strength probably is a bigger deal, and look at the damage range there, I definitely think that's probably true. Because with Strength, I 100% believe that you're definitely doing at least half to this Jinx. But you saw how much Blizzard did. It's not very good. Unlike other Psychic types, Jinx has Stab that can hurt you really badly. So probably not worth it. And we have Rhydon. And for this replay, I didn't go for... what's it called? Amnesia. And it didn't matter. Because Rhydon is tanky enough to even survive one Amnesia boosted Psychic. Honestly, when I put it like that, maybe Girafarig isn't enough for OU. Because if it needs, like, 2 Amnesia Psychics to kill Rhydon, you probably aren't tanky enough to beat it. But at the same time, for things like Slowbro, you can definitely prey on them. Although it's worth saying that Slowbro Surf does it 3-shots you, either unboosted or both you at max special. So, yeah, Slowbro can win with Paralysis. But at the same time, you have a good crit rate, which can definitely beat Slowbro. So, I think I need to change the tier list a little bit. When we get to it, I'm pretty sure I'm putting Slowbro and Could Go Either Way and Rhydon in a bad matchup. And yeah, when I put it like that, it's kind of rough. Luckily, here's one matchup where you are pretty good. This is where having Thunderbolt becomes really relevant. Because, well, if you get crit, you're kind of screwed. But look at that! 1 Amnesia, and you're doing most of Starmie's HP. If you really wanted to, you could have just gone for Thunderbolt there, and Starmie wouldn't be able to recover. Although I definitely think going for Rest is a much better option. And with this, Starmie can't really hurt you unless it crits. So honestly, like, I kind of expected it to do pretty good. And I can't put it in great matchup because, obviously, Starmie critting and Paralysis is a pretty big threat. But still, having a great matchup against Starmie, or almost having a great matchup, it's one of the things that makes me feel more optimistic about Girafarig's chances in Gen 1. Now, second to last, but not least, we have Zapdos. I'm going to be showing one replay representing, like, the strength you can have if you go for, what's it called? Headbutt? Also, I haven't mentioned it beforehand, but this replay here kind of made me realize, oh yeah, the special drop. Girafarig having a 1 in 3 chance to get a special drop with Psychic definitely helps out with a lot of its damage ranges, and makes them much more winnable. Without it, I probably would say Zapdos was a bad matchup, since as you saw there, you don't have a consistent 2-hit KO. But man, Psychic being as strong as it is in Gen 1, definitely helps out a lot. Now for this last replay, this is going to be a bit of a wacky one. Definitely optimal plays are not being used here. But I just needed, like, some way to kind of just show off the power of Headbutt. So we have a Chansey and an Alakazam. Executor's is kind of here, just a bulky thing that, you know, set up Thunder Waves. So once you go for a Headbutt, that's a 3rd. That's honestly pretty good, especially if you get a crit. And if they flinch once, they're probably screwed. So here we're going to see a crit doing 54%. That's honestly insane. And this is just going for Headbutt, not even like Amnesia or anything. You can maybe argue that Strength is better, but Strength would not consistently kill Eggy, Chansey, or anything like that. So I think the chance to flinch is just superior in my opinion. But overall, here is the tier list that I definitely need to change. This should definitely be bad matchup. This should be Could Go Either Way. And honestly, since I feel like Girafarig can always successfully bait out a explosion, I think Executor should probably be in good matchup. Although this might be me glazing. But this, outside of other videos, I think it's really important for me to know. What do you think? Do you think I'm being too generous with Girafarig? Or do you think it would be an OU? I will say though, if it does end up in OU, it would definitely be on the lower end with Victreebel, Slowbro, and Jolteon. I think at the very least, it would be better than Slowbro, because I feel like both of them are competing for amnesia setters, but at least Girafarig has more it could potentially do. Although I guess Slowbro does have Thunder Wave. Seriously though, let me know in the comments below what you think. I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.